Today on Locked On Rockies, let's rank the Rockies and close, but no deal yet.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 1st of March. I am Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire, host of the Locked On Rockies podcast. You can also hear me on radio airwaves in Seattle and making all sorts of audio goodness. And you can check out all my work at paulfholden.com. Been following and watching the Rockies all 27 years of my life. Today on Locked On Rockies, we are ranking the Rockies starting rotation compared to the rest of the division. We are starting a new little 2-week content plan here, a little roadmap for you of breaking down the teams as hopefully baseball is around the horizon, because we'll also take a look at the latest with the late night negotiations. I'm recording live here on Tuesday. I have, Twitter and everything open. I am going to keep scrolling. So if anything happens in the course of the show, because we are recording 10 Pacific time, AM right now. So if you're listening to this maybe and you're like, why isn't he talking about what's going on? As of right now, as of recording, nothing yet. But I have the Twitter open. According to Bob Nightingale, more than 1 hour has lapsed and still in-person negotiation session has taken place. They had frequent talks over the phone this past week, so perhaps the same today. That doesn't seem like the most grammatically correct tweet from Bob. That's okay. There's a lot going on, I'm sure. So we don't know what's coming up with baseball, but just a reminder to folks out there, this deadline that was imposed, this lockout and everything that was imposed was on the owners, and this is it's a matter of how much control are the players willing to give up for baseball. At this point, folks, at this point in the negotiations and stuff, I don't really know what to tell you, what you want to believe. You might be fed up with the players or whatever, and then you might buy into some of these things. But remind yourselves, this was a team of owners. These were the owners that said baseball is matter. They don't want to cancel games. They don't want to do this. But then they did this. They set this deadline. They locked the players out. They could have been more productive on negotiations. They could have been more proactive on talks. The owners could have done a lot more. But it certainly has seemed like, at least from what I was reading and what I was gathering, that this plan isn't working out for them. I think it's true. The owners were hoping that the players would balk, that the players would that this deadline and that all this stuff was going to come up, and it was going to have the players have cold feet and get scared and get nervous about them losing their livelihoods. And a reminder that players lose money when games get canceled. Yes. And that might not be as big a deal to some of the big names we've talked about, but that matters for the vast majority of the league. And that matters from the top down. That means if there's less games, there's less work for the people that work at the ballpark. That's less work for every single person that's involved with baseball from the top down. This is not just the owners and players bickering. This has huge implications across the entire organization. And yes, I stand with the players making this stance. The owners can't sit there and feed the lies anymore of the importance of baseball in a pandemic, the importance of games not being canceled, the importance of this, the importance of that, and not act in good faith. If baseball is as important as ownership says, if baseball is as important as it is, then the owners would be doing everything possible to be making sure that games were not being canceled, that spring training was happening, and everything was going along. If it truly was for the game of baseball, for the sanctity, for the joy, for the importance that baseball plays in our society, we wouldn't be in this situation. The owners want to retain and dominate the power and the money. Just like everything else we see with powerful, wealthy people in the world. This shouldn't be a surprise to you. And you shouldn't fall into pitfalls of being upset that millionaire players, the best in the world at their job, are allowed to enjoy the spoils of their work. If you can do what Max Scherzer can do, then yes, say what you want to. Then you can go and be Max Scherzer and be in this situation and say, we as ball players need to just get in there and play ball. But I'm going to go ahead and assume if you are as good as Max Scherzer, as good as Trevor Story, as good as John Gray, that you want to be paid what you are worth because you are one of the few people in the world that can do what you do, as good as you do it, as consistently as you do it. And you deserve to be rewarded for your work. I think the players should have the lion's share of most things. Because again, if you want me to have sympathy for people in ownership about the costs of running a business, you chose to be in this business. You bought a baseball team. And a baseball team incorporates a minor league system. It incorporates players of a wide variety in pay and skill. And it involves people that take care of your facilities, people that make sure that your facilities are run well, people that make sure that stock the food, that serve the food, that stock the entire stadium, that run the entire stadium, that manage the entire stadium. All of those people deserve a chunk of the pie. The owners don't deserve to have as much power and as much control just because they are the ones that pay everything. And they don't even pay that stuff because they want to cry poor. You can't sit there and buy into crying poor or any of that stuff when the owners willingly bought into this. And most of them could sell their team for a profit right now. People deserve to be treated with respect, and they deserve to have a voice, and the players deserve to have power. They make baseball happen. We don't go to watch Dick Monfort. We don't go to watch Steinbrenner. We don't go to watch anyone else. We go to watch the players. And all of us would watch the players wherever they were. I just don't. That's the thing. I just will not back down on that. But anyway, more to be done, more to be seen. I don't know what. There we go. There's my little thing. I'm just gonna scroll through Twitter here. We'll see if expanded playoffs. I mean, that we'll have to see what's going on here. But let's just go and see the latest, at least from the deadline's until 5 p.m. today. That's kind of it right now. That's it. So I'm just gonna kind of hit the brakes there. I rant a lot about that. I don't need to hit too much with that. Let's rank the Rockies. Let's talk some ball. Let's dive into arguably the strength of the Colorado Rockies, the starting rotation, something that people that don't know anything about Rockies probably would be shocked to hear. But before we do that, got to tell you about our friends at BetOnline.net. Football might be over for the season, but basketball, full steam ahead for both pro and college hoops. It's March 1st, and you know what that means? March Madness. Oh, what better place to get involved with all the action than BetOnline.net? From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where to find the next landing spot for the fired coach, you can head over to betonline.net for the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds. All your sports action can be found at betonline.net. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet Online, where the game starts. That's betonline.net. All right, so let's rank the Rockies here. Let's talk about the what we're doing here. So every pod for the next 2 weeks, we are going to look at an aspect of the Rockies. Today, we are talking starting rotation. So for the next for our next two episodes, we'll dive into the bullpen and we'll dive into the lineup. And we'll also have some stuff next week as well, where we're looking at defense, manager, and then I believe this is all coming up into a nice big round table, a nice division crossover next week or the week of or later in March, where we're going to all look, where all of us from the NL West are going to break down and take a look at what is going on with the Rockies. So, first things first, let's start with the Rockies starting rotation. And this is the strength of the Rockies right now, as I think we all know. And it is all going to go with the, start with the Rockies ace, and that is Armand Marquez. And I truly believe that we got to see the first glimpse of true excellence from Armand Marquez. When I should have talked more about this, but as the season hopefully gets closer and closer, Armand Marquez is someone I am ecstatic to watch. When he's dealing, he is a top tier pitcher. I think any single team in this entire league would take a prime Armand Marquez and put them in at least the top three of the rotation. And if you're putting Armand Marquez as number three, that's because you have two better options, just because there are some of those rotations and some of those arms out there that I think might be better than Armand. But Armand Marquez is a stud. He is absolutely incredible. And this Rockies team is going to be successful, or is going to be deeper in the pits due to the performance of Armand Marquez. I will say, when you look at him compared to the rest of the division, I think he is one of the best pitchers in the NL West. And I think in reality, when I look at the starting rotations or the projected ones, and we're getting some help from our friends at Fansided over here, you're really curious about what's going to happen with both the Giants, the Dodgers, who's really going to be there. Is Armand better than a Walker Bueller? Is Armand Marquez better than a Logan Webb? I would definitely say you can put him over Webb. Webb we probably haven't seen enough. It's hard to really say a lot of positives about, or like I think that the Rockies are better than Rockies or these other division rivals when you look at the way the Rockies performed against the Dodgers and the Giants last year. But when I look at those names, I'm pretty sure that I feel that I feel Armand could go up with a lot of them and really take after a spot to be the dominant pitcher in the National League West. I think there is an argument to be made there. But of course, with the Dodgers, Walker Bueller, this is their projected starting rotation from Fansided over there. Walker Bueller, Julio Urias, Luis Castillo, Clayton Kershaw, and Andrew Heaney. We'll see. It's so hard to predict and compare with the Dodgers because you don't know exactly what they're going to do with their rotation and with Kershaw and all that stuff. But the only names there, I'm looking at Julio and I'm looking at Walker Bueller. Those would probably be the ones that I would say better than Armand there, but not by much, at least in my eyes. Let's take a look at Walker Bueller from last year. Here we go. Walker Bueller in 2021 was a all-star. He threw 207 innings, giving up only 57 runs. He was let's see. Where is his line? Okay, his ERA plus was 165. His FIP was 3.6. Less than one whip, and let's see, less than 7 hits per 9 innings. I mean, he was also fourth in the Cy Young. That's, you're not going to be better than Walker Bueller. That's what I was saying. I think that Armand could flash that potential to be there. I just think when you're looking at someone like Walker Bueller, you're going to expect him to probably be the best arm in the West next year. But I don't think that should rule out Armand Marquez. I mean, when he was at his best in that, right around that All-Star break and right in the middle of that season, I mean, he was dominating people, decimating people. I watched him pitch in Seattle, and when he took, I think it was a perfect game into the seventh. There was at least a no-hitter or something. And I mean, he was absolutely lights out electric. So, anchored by Armand Marquez, Antonio Senzatella is going to be another really interesting arm for this team. This is a move that the Rockies they're confident in. They believe that that he is the person that's figured out some of the stuff of Coors Field. He is something that he got the contract. He got I believe it was a 5-year deal. Well, let's get that contract. And I like Senzatella. I think Senzatella has shown that he really can be someone that knows what he's doing and knows his role. I mean, he's someone that has been good for the Rockies. And unfortunately for Senza, you're going to look at him and be like, wow, look at that record last year. But classic case of pitchers' losses and things not always being the most accurate representation of the player as a whole. I mean, Senza was dealing and just didn't get a lot of help, especially for road games. He was someone that the Rockies could really rely on and lean on, especially towards the end of the season. So 5-year contract, $50.5 million. He had a 4.42 ERA and 105 strikeouts and 156 and 2/3 innings. That is his best season was 2020. According to The Athletic, was a 3.44 ERA in 12 starts. The right-hander has a 4.84 career ERA and 124 appearances over 5 seasons. I'm all right with. I'm good with this move. I think 5 years might have been a little too long, but we get to figure it out. We get to see what is going to happen with our rotation there. But Senza and Armand at the front make it a really good 1-2 punch. Then for the Rockies going into the 3 spot, most likely should be taken up by Austin Gomber. I would imagine Gomber is going to move up and Freeland is going to go to the 5. And then the 5th spot is really where the Rockies fall off. I think the Rockies have a solid 1 through 4. I don't think what we've seen is, again, Kyle Freeland isn't going to be a quote unquote ace, but I'm happy when Kyle Freeland takes the bump. A healthy Austin Gomber, as long as the walks are limited, we know what Austin can do. My biggest concern with Austin Gomber is a lack of control. We've seen him walk a lot of people, and we've seen him have health issues. We have to see what's going to happen with that. But all in all, I think the Rockies really would have had a strong case for second best rotation in the division with John Gray in there. But that's the big question mark. How are the Rockies going to move on from John Gray, who is someone that really did provide a solid piece, a solid little, a nice 4-5 arm? If the Rockies were able to get someone or see someone and get something from their younger guys, and John Gray was able to shift back a little bit further, that would have been even better for the Rockies. But losing John Gray will make the Rockies take a step back. And I'll tell you where I think they end up in the division in terms of starting rotation in just a moment. But first, Let's talk about Built Bar. Built Bar is the go-to snack replacement. Look, folks, if you want to ditch the candy bars, if you are looking for a treat that is going to be beneficial for you, then why not check out Built Bar and all the great options at Built.com. They even got the puffs. If you haven't tried out, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors like the yummy cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, and banana cream pie. And you can find your next favorite at Built.com. All Built bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. That includes the puffs. 100% real chocolate, low calorie, high protein. You can see the macros for yourself at Built.com. You'll be blown away by the high protein, low cal, high fiber, and low carb options. Head to Built.com today and see all the delicious flavors and options available for you. Use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. That's 15% off at Built.com when you use the promo code LOCKED15. Get 15% off your order at Built.com today with the promo code LOCKED15. We're also brought to you today by Rock Auto. Listen, you don't want to waste your time and go down to the store and have someone look up the things that you need for your car or truck on a computer when you can do that for yourself right here, right now, and you'll save time and money when doing so. Don't spend 30%, 50%, 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every single customer, and you can explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Yes, anything that you need for your car or truck, Rock Auto's got you covered, and you can head to rockauto.com right now and see all the great parts available for your car or truck. Hey, do us a favor and let them know that we sent you right Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so that they know that your friends at the Locked On Rockies podcast sent you, and you can be treated to an amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. All right, let's get down to it. You want the numbers. You want the rankings. It's the internet. People love rankings. I think the Rockies will finish with the third best rotation in the National League West this year. And I think that's going to be because maybe a young arm surprises us. The Rockies will finish below the Padres as a starting rotation. I think the Giants, we've seen, I am not counting anything out on the Giants as a Rockies fan until we see these two teams match up. Are the Giants, is it going to be consistent? Is it going to carry over? Is it for real? Does that rotation really scare you in San Francisco? Logan Webb, Anthony DeSclafani, Alex Wood, Alex Cobb. As Rockies fans, we have to sit there and look at at what happened last year and say, yeah, the Giants decimated the Rockies last year, along with the Dodgers. So I can't sit here and say that the Rockies are going to be able to outduel those teams right now just because of their starting rotation. I think the Rockies are going to be able to go in those games and be competitive if their offense backs up their rotation, and the rotation is going to be able to go up against those other arms and have a nice clash. I think that the Dodgers are at the most likely to decline in terms of that just because they might lose Kershaw. Who knows what could happen in the offseason, but I don't think the Padres, I think this isn't working. I think something is a myth there and something is going to have to change. Blake Snell has to be good and just was not consistent at all. Yu Darvish was fine, but just is not near what Yu Darvish used to be. And I just don't think that. And then Joe Musgrove, of course, was really good last year. So there's some options, but I don't know. They do have Mike Clevenger who could come back, and but when you look at some of the stuff, they don't have a lot of arms outside of Snell, Darvish, and Musgrove, and I don't think you're going to get a ton from Darvish at this point. And I'm going to take Armand going up against Musgrove. I'm going to take Senza. I'm going to take the Rockies lining up against the Padres because, again, we saw this Rockies team beat them. I mean, the Padres were the talk of the NL West going into the season last year, and yet the Rockies were really good against them. Not in the beginning of the year. That's the one big X factor for Armand, and we talked about this when I first took over. I'd like Armand to get that early season stuff figured out. However, baseball's a long time, and like what at the end of the day, they just need Armand to be sharp enough and then go up. If Armand can start, if it's a slow burn and it goes up, and as long as that bell curve stays up and along for as much of the season, because it's a long time, and if it keeps going up, that's great. I just don't want Armand and the Rockies pitching staff to peak too early, which I think we saw that after the Rockies kind of ran out of gas in terms of, I think, with health of pitchers and things of that towards the end of the year. And the biggest question mark, too, for the Rockies starting rotation going forward will be replacing John Gray, as they were already in a situation where they needed another arm. So the Rockies do need to figure out what they're going to do with certain parts of this rotation. But I have confidence in the rotation of Marquez, Senzatella, Gomber, and Freeland. Who that last person is, we'll have to figure out. We'll see. But I don't think, just if we're basing it off what we've seen with this rotation intact and what we've seen with most of the current states of these teams, because again, a lot of question marks still with who's going to sign. There's still some free agents. There's all still this with the lockout. Who the Giants and the Padres and Dodgers are. I'm just not going to count out the Giants and the Dodgers until the season starts in really any aspect. I don't really know if there's anything the Rockies have that I could sit here and say, I think that they're better than the Dodgers and the Giants at. Spoiler, I guess, but we'll talk more about that here as time goes on. So I'm going to put the Rockies as the third best rotation in baseball. Yes, I didn't talk about the Diamondbacks, but the Diamondbacks were way worse than everybody last year. So I think the Rockies firmly earned themselves a 3 spot in the terms of the power rankings of starting rotations. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Let me know on Twitter at LO Rockies. You can follow me at Paul Holden 33. That's going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On Rockies podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today, keeping your eyes on the lockout as well, making sure we're staying up to date with that. Tomorrow, we're going to talk bullpens. Let's rank the Rockies bullpens, probably one of the issues that plagued the Rockies the most last year. But a lot of young arms coming up. What does that mean for the club? We'll talk about that and a whole lot more here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you wouldn't mind leaving us a review and a 5-star rating, if you like, on your favorite streaming service. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden, signing off.